Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Sharks squander an opportunity to give a little bit of space to themselves in the playoff race. Currently, they are still holding on to second place with the slimmest margins. The Anaheim Ducks fell in overtime and shootout to Edmonton Oilers, so the Sharks still retain second place. However, it is a tenuous 1-point lead. And honestly, the Sharks, after that second period, just really ran out of gas. It's all I can say about the way that they played tonight, but we'll dive into it a little bit more. First off, I want to introduce my lovely and talented co-host, Rocket Backhander. Rocket, how are you doing?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm reporting live and on duty from Nashville, Tennessee, and apparently I'm going to be underwater in about a day. So, whatever. I'm here.
And if you want to be a part of the show, please use the hashtag TealTownUSA and tweet at us at TealTownUSA on Twitter. Of course, we are on the Facebook chat, or just Facebook in general, Twitter, Instagram, SoundCloud, and the YouTube chat. The YouTube chat is really where we get a lot of your guys' questions, and it's really where we get the bulk of our content, trying to come up with some of the questions that you guys have, and it's really, how we like to interact with the fans. So anyhow, if you want to be a part of the show, just go ahead and use any of those links or any of those methods of contacting us, and we'd love to get your questions on the air. Checking on it. Is my microphone on? My microphone is on. I think maybe the gain. Let's try the gain adjustment. How about that, guys? Does that sound a lot better? No? Still nothing, huh?
It sounds like you're not using a microphone. It sounds like it's picking up your voice from the microphone in your computer.
Okay. Give me 1 second here. Let's roll over. And I will switch over to the different microphone I've got. Let me see. Here we go.
Meanwhile, on the other side of people with microphone problems, every time I try to use YouTube, my microphone cuts out randomly and stops working. So I can't look at the chat tonight. So you guys can talk a gang load of shit about me and I won't know about it. Please don't.
How about No? Anybody? Static?
It's about the same. It's just going to be a crappy night all the way around. Embrace it, people. Embrace the suck.
The technology tonight is just not working for anybody. I just, where to begin? I guess let's start with the beginning. The Sharks really, they start off letting a lot of shots in on Jones. Jones holds the fort in that first period. But really not a great way to just kind of get the game started.
Whatever you just did, fixed your microphone.
Perfect. Cool. All right. Well, I won't.
1,000 times.
I won't breathe then, because thing is just really. It just seems like we're having a lot of technical quirks tonight. But yeah. Let's
solar flare.
Solar flare, maybe.
Mercury in retrograde.
Yeah. So, like I said before, the Sharks kind of let in a lot of shots on goal in that first. It just seemed like the first 10 minutes, it took them a little bit to really get into it. And Rocket just dropped, but I can run solo here. The Sharks, have 17 shots on goal, but I think that that's a little misleading because a lot of their shots came towards the end of that period. Joakim Ryan with a great goal tonight from Hansen and Gaudreau. That fourth line really just putting on a great effort. And I really like the kind of grit and the kind of puck retrieval that you see from Hansen and Gaudreau together. I think that that's a nice little combination. And, I a lot with the faceoffs. So, I think that fourth line, I think that fourth line was really the line that was a catalyst for getting the Sharks into the game. And like I said, game 14 minutes into the first. Rocket, what did you think on the first goal, and what do you think of that fourth line overall tonight?
How much ice time did that fourth line get in the third period?
Yeah.
That's kind of my thoughts overall on that fourth line. That was a nice goal from Chris Tierney, though.
Let's see. Let's take a look here at the ice times for that fourth line. Eric Fair clocking in at 15 minutes, Barclay Goodrow at 13 minutes, and Yannick Hansen at 11:51. So, Barclay Goodrow and Eric Fair up 13s to 15-minute ranges, and that's pretty good for a fourth line. But Yannick, I mean, gosh, just what a bust. And he looked like he was starting to add some stuff to this team. He got re-injected back in the lineup, but I don't know. I still I'm not really happy maybe with his decision making. Maybe it's because he hasn't been into the game very often that his decision making is a little bit off.
Well, I think it's chicken egg there. Is this decision making up because he hasn't been in the game, or did they pull him out of the game because his decision making is terrible?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like his game is really dependent upon who his line mates are, and really just depends on how much leash that DeBoer is willing to give him. And right now, he's getting a little bit of a leash, but not really. He's floating in and out of line mates, and I really did like that Bodker, Tierney, Hansen line. I think him and Bodker together, that's good because they did play in Denmark, but I don't know. Quickly going over the big thing, Rob Iman. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to touch on was Tim Heed. Tim Heed had 6 minutes tonight, 6 minutes 41 seconds, and we just question this coaching staff sometimes. We question about how they deal with the young rookies, and we saw that with both LeBanc and with Timo Meyer in their first year in Teal, and that was pretty frustrating. Tim Heed has done nothing but add offense from the blue line. He's kind of like a mini Burns with his slap shot. I think he's got a really, really good slap shot. And it just seems like, exactly, Bearded Sharks guy, that someone has to be in the doghouse since Goodrow is out. Goodrow has been doing really well, so I guess somebody's got to go in that doghouse. Ian said, in fairness, Heed isn't a young rookie. He's 25, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, but I think it's 25. And I think when I say young rookie, I mean young in the NHL. He doesn't really have a lot of NHL experience. Quickly kind of rolling now into that second period. Chris Tierney with his 15th from LeBanc on a really nice redirect. LeBanc really showing that vision that we saw a little bit earlier in the season. So it's nice to see LeBanc kind of give Chris Tierney a great feed in the slot, and Tierney just tipping it away. And that was 2:28 in the second. And about halfway into the second is really when I started to see the Sharks kind of fall off. I feel like the Sharks brought a lot of energy out in the first 10 minutes of that second period, and my dogs have just gone crazy. But kind of going, to the second 10 of that second period, let me see if I can lower the gain here so we don't pick up a lot of extra chatter. But, after that second 10 minutes, it just seemed like the gas just kind of ran out. So then, Matt Cullen ends up taking advantage of that slippage in the Sharks' play, and Matt Cullen gets his 7th from a really nice tip in, very similar to the Chris Tierney goal, actually, from Spurgeon and Fogliano, and makes it 2-1. And those goals that you give up in the last minute of a period are backbreakers. With, scoring that at 19:16, Minnesota gets on the board, and really, really just not a good thing for the Sharks to give up. Going into the third period, the Sharks do a good job, I think, of their defensive responsibilities. But man, Eric Stahl was on the puck all night. You saw him really, really be a one-man wrecking crew, and it shows why he's the leading scorer on Minnesota. Eric Stahl with his 30th goal on a wraparound. Suter and Zucker uh, get the assist on that goal at 15-16. The Minnesota Wild tie it up with the Sharks, and it just kind of one of those ones you just shake your head like, man, where are the Sharks covering that far side post? Then we go into overtime. It looked like the Sharks had a really good possession game in that overtime. It looked like they had a lot of it under control, but there's, like it happens in 3-on-3, there's a defensive zone breakdown, a 2-on-1 isolation down at the goal line, and you get a really good one-timer from Jared Spurgeon who gets it past Martin Jones, who's just, dead to rights on that play. Zucker gets that assist on a beautiful assist. And you know what? I mean, the Sharks lose. And like I said before in the opening, they squander the ability to go up on Anaheim 2 points. Right now, the Sharks are still holding on to second place, but only with a 1-point margin. I mean, right now, the Sharks are in a dead heat for second place. And they have 75 points. Their record right now is 33, 21, and 9 with 75 points, a row of 29, and nipping at their heels is Anaheim. Anaheim has 74 points, 31 wins, 21 losses, and 12 overtime losses. The Sharks really need to get it in gear. I mean, they've got Anaheim staring them down. Calgary's got 73 points, so they're one win away from tying it up with the Sharks. The nice thing about Anaheim chasing them is they've got one game in hand on Anaheim, and they're tied with games with Calgary. And then you have Los Angeles, who's just kind of quietly treading water. They have 71 points with 62 games played. If they win their next game, I believe on Rose, they would overtake Calgary for the second wild card spot. And then, of course, you have St. Louis, who's got 72 points. And boy, what a fall from grace St. Louis has had. They've lost 4 in a row. They're now sitting outside of the playoff race. But Rocket, I wanted to get your input on the last part of the third period. I believe you are either muted or, or the headphones are gone. Yeah, you know what? It's just she's gotten some problems on her USB ports and her computer. So we'll try and get out to Rocket when she gets a chance. But yeah, I mean, what a fall from grace for. Being bought out this season. I wouldn't.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Rocket.
All right. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know how long I have, and if this cuts out this time, then I'm just going to cut out and say goodnight for the night because I have a feeling it's my microphone that's dying and not my USB. I will say this about St. Louis. St. Louis was a hard and fast and brutal machine, and I don't know what has happened to them, but they seem to have lost their confidence and their way this season.
Yeah.
That's all. What?
I'm looking at here and it's saying that we've lost our audio. I'm trying to listen on YouTube. Oh, there it goes. I have no idea what the heck is going on here. This is just kind of insane. I'm wondering if it might be a YouTube problem. And now Rocket's out. So, oh my goodness. Like I said, guys, we're really sorry. Really apologize for the technical issues. I might just have to ride solo on this one. I think it's either Rocket coming in or out, or it's something, just something happening with YouTube. But we'll roll for right now. You guys just let me know if you guys can't stop hearing me, and if you don't stop hearing me, we'll try and kind of pick it up later. I'm going to try and get Ian on here. Ian, give me a second here. I'm going to send you the Hangout link in the DM. And yeah, so we were talking about St. Louis, and St. Louis is just, I don't know what happened. They really did look like a team that was going to be world beaters, and now they really have fallen out. So, I just don't know what exactly is up with that team right now. I don't know. Right now, I think we're starting to see the Sharks really miss Joe Thornton. I said it on Twitter tonight that this team looks like a second or first line center short. And, I also wonder what Doug Wilson is thinking with these Carlson rumor trades. I mean, we've heard that Doug Wilson is kind of hot on the heels for Erik Karlsson. And it was something that I brought up if you wanted to do a Brent Burns for Erik Karlsson 1-for-1 trade. And the reason why I would do that, the reason why I would do that is because you try and get a better equipped defenseman instead of having the Wookiee back there. And I said maybe you could do a 1-for-1, and that would be good, because what would Ottawa get out of it? They would get price guarantee, and they'd pretty much get the Wookiee locked up to an 8-year deal. But we don't know exactly what's going on. We also heard that Braun was out sick tonight. I don't know if that was a precautionary pullout or if he really was sick. If it was the playoffs, would he kind of be in on it? I don't know. There seems to be a little bit of intrigue around there. We also heard that Joel Ward was asked for his no movement, no trade clause teams. And, that's another piece that might be off. And I think the Sharks would be good, the Sharks to kind of ship that piece off and try and get some asset for him. However, we don't know who would take that. Ian, good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been a while. What's going on?
Not much. Just trying to get over the technology hump tonight.
Yeah. Well, I will try to have technology that works. I make no promises.
I appreciate you hopping on. So first off, what were your thoughts on the game tonight? And I mean, for me, it looked like a team that was tired.
Yeah, I mean, they played the first. I liked the way they came out in the first. I thought that Jones had a really good night, but as the game rolled on, it really started to feel like that Chicago game again, where I don't feel like, Chicago obviously beat them when you look at the score sheet, but really the Sharks beat themselves in that Chicago game, in my opinion. It wasn't a good game for them. And I just thought as the second and third period dragged on, it was just more of the same.
Right. I mean, it looked like once they had that 2-goal lead, they really just let Minnesota back into this game. And I mean, even you just look at the shots on goal, 28-41.
Oh, yeah. If Martin Jones isn't in that, like if Martin Jones doesn't have the game he did, this isn't even a game. This is another 7-1 Nashville laugher. Right.
And I mean, we've got a little bit of trade activity going on with the Sharks. The Sharks send Troy Gosnick and Brandon Bollig to the Nashville Predators for a 6th-round pick. Kind of interesting because the Sharks jettisoned 2 contracts off the book, so it gives them a little bit more flexibility in the contract limit. I mean, I thought that they had 2 or 3 spaces available in the first place.
Yeah, they're up to 5 now. They had 3 available to begin with. I think part of it is, if I'm San Jose, I don't want Dylan Gambrell to go from his junior to senior year. Like, I want him under contract after this year's over. And I wonder if, another guy like maybe Maxim Latunov, maybe they feel the same way about him. So I wonder if it's has to do with some college signings. Maybe they're going to take on, maybe they're going to make a trade and take on a couple of contracts for the rest of the year. That would open up room for that, obviously, without if they're not planning on moving off the roster, like players from the roster. So there's a couple of possibilities, I think, that are there.
Hockey jerk, you really are a hockey jerk. He sent out a tweet, and I hope that everybody is realizing that tweet was from 2012. The Senators agreed to terms with Erik Karlsson on a 7-year contract extension. That was in 2012, people. 2012.
Amazing.
Oh man, it's funny. Just I love Twitter. I love how it's really not an evergreen.
It's amazing.
It's not really an evergreen platform, and you can just pull up stuff. But yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting take that they try maybe lock up Letunov and Gambrell. I mean, both are having good seasons.
I think Letunov, I was discussing this with a couple of people earlier, and I think Letunov's a guy like you throw in the Barracuda, you give him an entry-level contract and see if he does anything. Whereas I think Gambrell, he could be an NHL player next year, in my opinion. I don't think he needs Barracuda seasoning. But with the way you've lost, with the way that a lot of your recent draft picks have turned out, especially like your early round draft picks, Goldobin, Mueller. God, the Sharks need to win at this point in the first or second round, don't they?
I mean, the law of averages would tell you that they would get some kind of good player in the first or second round for whiffing so often as they do. I mean, Chris Tierney is the last of the second rounder, right? A second rounder.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean, yeah, it hasn't been good. We look at this year. We have Mario Ferraro that was drafted in the second position. Joshua Norris in the first. Dylan Gabriel last year in the second position. Jeremy Watt in the second position in 2015.
Okay, guys, Timo Meier doesn't count. Timo Meier's like a ninth overall pick. Meier's fine. And Thomas Hertl was like forever ago. Like everyone acts like Thomas Hertl's still a baby. He looks like a baby. He's not.
Right. I think what we're looking at 2014, 13. Yeah, 2014 and 2013 is really, if you look at the drafting history there, that's where the issue is. I mean, 2014, Nikolai Goldberg was 27th overall, and Julius Berg, who the jury's still really out on what exactly he is.
I like Bergman. I like Bergman enough, but I mean, at the same time, this is a guy who has, gone back in the. You look, he's regressed a little bit. I think, he's been kind of playing on I think the third D pair on the Barracuda this year, and look, the Barracuda's not a great team this year.
No, they're not great, and they're having a lot of issues right now. Going back to that draft, the other second round pick that they had was Noah Rod, who we've yet to really see in North America, and I don't know if he's much more than a Melker Karlsson at this point, but
yeah, I don't know what you get. I mean, Noah Rod's such an interesting pick because I mean, it's not like he's offensively gifted. Even over in the Swiss League, it's not like he's running up the score. And that European clause, I mean, it's basically the way it looks to me is if you're not giving me an NHL spot, I'm not coming. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It just seems like he's trying to use that European clause as some leverage. So, I mean, the guys that I look at, I hope comes back after clears the concussion issues is Chartier. I mean, I had high hopes for him. I mean, Emil Galyamov, the 7th round pick in 2013, who is a KHL guy, a really good season. And I wonder if the Sharks try and make some overtures, try and bring him on. I mean, they sold his rights, and he's 25 right now, and he's his stride.
Yeah.
I wonder if they try and do that. But yeah, right now the Sharks are just in dire straits, and there's not a lot on the horizon for the team. It comes from right now the bulk of their prospects, the bumper crop, is going to be in junior or in NCAA.
College mostly. I mean, it seems like they're really starting to draft really heavily in the college ranks the last couple of years.
Right. So, I think right now you just got to wait on the prospects and see what you got.
Yeah.
Quickly, what were your thoughts on the trade? I mean, for me, it seems like they were trying to give Grosnick the opportunity to get, up the depth chart in goaltending.
I feel like the Sharks are really high on Josef Kornash, who is the young goalie who was playing for I believe it was the Czech Republic this year at the World Juniors, and I thought he had a pretty good outing. Obviously you're going to look at his numbers at the World Juniors and say, well, whatever, but then you got to remember that, some of these teams just get thumped by other teams, so you don't want to look too hard at the numbers in some of those cases. You just want to look at like the body of work where he faced a ton of shots, and I thought he had a pretty good game. As far as Bollig, Bollig's never coming back to the show. I mean, he's going to be a journeyman AHLer for the rest of his career, so there's no loss there. I just think that Grosnick's a guy who I thought they gave a chance to. I thought he did really well last year on the Barracuda. Obviously, there's no denying the season he had on the Barracuda last year. But it seems like, the team in front of him was also amazing. And, the year before when the team wasn't that great, Aaron Dell ran away with the job. And I don't think the Sharks had long-term aspirations for Troy Grosnick, who I also think is on a one-way deal next year. So I think that might have some play into it too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Everybody, I just switched into a new microphone cable.
You sound 1,000 times better.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think it is the connection to my microphone that was kind of having the problems there. So glad to hear that everything is back to normal.
Oh, Kevin Lacey correcting me saying Grosnick was on a 2-year deal next year. So there you have it. I still think that he's fallen off the depth chart. Bibo has had a hell of a season with not exactly a great team in front of him either, much like Aaron Dell dragged the Barracuda into the playoffs kicking and screaming. They wanted nothing to do with it, and Aaron Dell's like, no, guys, we're going.
Right. I mean, it was good for them to get the experience for sure.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm looking at the trade deadline, and I am looking at what exactly the Sharks have what's coming up, what makes sense for this team and this organization. I know there's a lot of us, especially the more pessimistic, side of us, that want to see the Sharks sell off the assets that they have, whether it be a Tierney or a Carlson or a Ward, those lower level players. I've even heard some rumblings from fans, maybe time to trade Pavs or, pieces that are not Hurdle, Couture, Meyer, and LeBanc. And Burke. What for the long-term success of this franchise? I mean, when I say long-term, I mean like sustained for the next 2 to 5 years.
Right.
What, in your estimation, is the right way to go? Is it this continual retool, try and take a middle level prospect and put him into a place where he can succeed and try and, put him on the Joe Thornton training wheels line? Or is it time to strip it bare, or to try to do something in the middle?
See, yeah, I mean, if I'm in charge of the Sharks, and I'm admittedly a little bit conservative, I think that, I let this thing kind of just peter out and start stocking up on youth, because this team, it has some interesting prospects, but nothing game breaking. Like we've said it 100 times, this team has no game breaking prospects in its system, period. Anything that's remotely good has already been, integrated into the lineup. I think, Danny O'Regan, as a center, I just don't see it in the NHL. As a winger, I think he has a chance, but they're so hell-bent on him being a center that I think he's being set up to fail. So Eric Fuhr obviously comes in. Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, my opinion is kind of what Gen X said in the chat. I think that they're going to throw a bunch of stuff away and then try and buy their way back into things in free agency. And that's, to me, just, it's a recipe for disaster, because that's, you're hoping beyond hope that John Tavares hits the market. I'm not sold that's going to happen. So John Tavares doesn't hit the market. What's your next best possible guy in that market? To me, it's JVR. Do you really want to go super crazy long-term deal with JVR? I don't.
Right. I mean, JVR has been pretty inconsistent, has had some injury issues.
It's the injury issues that concern me the most, for sure.
Right. And so, it's similar to the Bobby Ryan deal in Ottawa. We'll kind of address these trades, because I guess it's the trade rumors. It's the elephant in the room. The Sharks are hot on the heels of Erik Karlsson. We don't know exactly what Doug Wilson might be thinking there, but I'm thinking he's kind of going, okay, I'm putting all my chips in on the defense, and just having a stellar defense that can push the puck up the middle to middling forwards. What's your thoughts on the idea of bringing Erik Karlsson in? I mean, what the hell would it take to get him?
I mean, they want roster players, right? So when I saw that Justin Braun was scratched tonight, before I realized that he was sick, I was like, well, that makes sense. To me, Erik Karlsson, like, if you're not making a call on Erik Karlsson and you're anyone but Ottawa's GM, like, obviously not going to call yourself, like they said on the broadcast tonight. If you're not calling about Erik Karlsson, regardless of what team you have and what your cap situation is, you just should be fired immediately. Do I think that Erik Karlsson would be nice in a teal jersey? Yeah, absolutely. I just, with what they want and some of the other teams that are involved, I just don't know how you get this done at the deadline. Like, to me, this is a summer deal when you have more time to drag it out and really get what you really want for him. I don't think this is a deadline deal. I don't think he's in a new sweater tomorrow.
Yeah. I think I kind of am similar in your take on it, only because deadline deals have kind of petered out lately in the last, let's say, but I'd say since 2005, the 2005 lockout, the trade deadline hasn't been very good. And I think it's when it's salary cap, it's implementation of the cap and trying to work trades in on that. And it has a twofold effect, both on money and on draft picks. These GMs are really, really concerned about hanging on to draft picks because they can't buy their way out of issues. So I kind of tend to agree with you. I give this kind of rumor, I kind of give it like a 10 to 15% confidence rating. Only if the Sharks really, if they eat the Bobby Ryan contract, they take Erik Karlsson and they take Bobby Ryan's full contract value back without Ottawa holding on to anything. I think that's the only way that a deal like this gets done. Now, we can talk about the roster players they want, talk about prospects and all that, but I think that is the start of the discussion. Doug Wilson, if I'm Peter Dorian, I'm saying, look, if you want to even start the negotiations, you're taking Bobby Ryan's full contract back. That's the door, in my opinion.
The team that scares me is another team rumored to be kicking tires on it is Vegas, because Vegas could do it and be just still laughing with cap space next year. They could take both Karlsson and Bobby Ryan and just be laughing with cap space next year.
And laughing with draft picks too.
And draft picks too. Like, it's not like they don't have the assets to give up either. Like, I thought Vegas killed the draft last year for their first time at the draft table. I thought they did really, really well. They've got a couple players that I really, really like. So yeah, I don't know. That's a team that I think could be interesting if they go in, because even though they seem to be content on playing the long game, which they should, they could do it. And I don't know what off the roster they would have to give up, but I mean, they could do it and be laughing with prospects and picks, and I don't know, man. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, no, sorry. I was like caught off guard there because I was starting to look in the chat. Hello, everybody. I am Kevin, and it's good to be here talking trade deadline with you. 15 hours away.
Yeah, Kevin. First off, what was what's your take on the trade with Nashville earlier this afternoon? Where does it set the Sharks up? Me and Ian thought that the interesting part was the Sharks get rid of another 2 contracts off the books. They have 5 contracts available now to hand out, which is quite a bit.
Yeah, I feel it is quite a lot of space to bring in more bodies or whatever their goal is here. I do think it's a situation of the Sharks didn't capitalize on trading Grosnick when his value was higher after being the reigning goalie of the year in the AHL. Not like the Sharks should have, really. I mean,
he was UFA too.
What's that?
He was UFA last summer too.
Yeah, it was Grosnick's net to lose. It sucks that he lost it. So the Sharks, I feel like, just did what they could to get something out of him before he walks in UFA after next year. So, and I actually had a really good chat with a lot of different people on Twitter, which I rarely ever do, about where the Sharks minor league system is going and whatnot. And the point that I was trying to hammer home is that the Sharks, they're not the only team, but the Sharks are one of a handful of teams who go all in for the Stanley Cup, and they don't really put much into their farm system. So why did that deal happen? Because Nashville's one of those teams who is willing to make trades to bolster up their farm.
So I'm looking at right now contracts, and it looks like the team with the lowest contracts given out is Dallas at 41. Right now the Sharks sit at 45 contracts, and St. Louis has 43, Boston has 43. So 45 is kind of on the lower end, and Nashville just took 2 bodies back. That puts them at 44 contracts. So Sharks have a little bit of space there in the contract realm. Again, talk ad nauseum about the amount of space they have in cap right now. If you guys want to talk about cap, they have $21 million in deadline cap space right now. Their current cap space is $21 million.
Who is Dallas?
Us. This is our cap space.
Oh, our cap space. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is room here to maneuver, and I mean, like we've said before, I mean, this is the greatest asset that Doug Wilson has, is that cap space. But what do you do with it? I mean, me and Ian were talking a little bit about it in the direction of what the Sharks should go. Kevin, what in your estimation should be the way that the Sharks kind of tackle kind of the future 2 to 5 years of this organization?
I think that the Sharks need to sit this deadline or sell. Sit or sell. I don't think there's any other option. We kind of had an impromptu video chat is what I'll call it, last night with AJ and Puck Guy and myself about this. And I brought up, I honestly feel like the Sharks' injuries and their losses this week is God's intervention of saying, stop, just don't do anything. You're not going anywhere. So let's build for the future. And where do I see the Sharks in 2 to 5 years? Sadly, I think they're going to be in the same boat as they are this year, a team who's hanging on but not really going anywhere. I would like to see Doug Wilson choose a direction to go in, and I prefer the choice to be a rebuild, because you can rebuild on the fly. The Sharks have proven it in the past, but the Sharks really need to develop the depth. And I mean, develop the depth, not just bring in depth, develop the depth. Because I mean, Gen X and I were talking earlier today about a team like Detroit who over-ripens their prospects in the minors, like to the point where they've become rotten by the time they get to the NHL. I'd still rather go that route than what the Sharks always do. You send a guy to the minors for 15 games and then call him up way too early. So I don't know. Until the Sharks pick a direction to go in, I think the future's bleak.
Right. And I mean, it's kind of that open secret that Doug Wilson's going really hard on John Tavares. I mean, that's what it's going to be. That's going to be his trump card.
But guys, I mean, like Ian said, and I tend to agree, I don't see John Morris leaving the island. You know, I know.
Josh Bailey just re-signed. I mean, why would you leave? You're getting a new arena. You've got, you've got a super young stud in Matt Barzal coming up. Like, I don't understand. Like, this team's like goalie away from being good. Why would you leave that now? After you've suffered through so much crap there, I just don't see it. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I don't see him leaving.
I think Ross McEwen kind of got a little mixed up with Hockey Jerk.
Did Hockey Jerk send him that bogus tweet from like 4 years ago?
I think Hockey Jerk is off Ross McKeon's Christmas list.
Yeah.
Like that.
Sorry,
Hockey Jerk, you're off the Christmas list.
For those of you not in the know or in the chat, Hockey Jerk has been privately sending us links from like 3-4 years ago all week about this trade just happened and this signing just happened just to see if we'll fall for it. And yeah.
Poor Ross. Ross, we're really sorry. We'll just go from there.
Off the Christmas card list.
It's interesting. NHL looks at the trade deadline activity. They just sent out a tweet. Chester Chivo, thanks for retweeting it. Actually, they didn't just send it out. It was 10 hours ago. So in 07-08, they had 25 trades. 08-09, 22. 9-10, 31 trades. And from there, it's kind of trickled downwards. I mean, 16, 16, 17, 20, 24, 19, 18. Boy, this to me, this has got to be like, if I'm Donald Fear, I'm saying this is why we need to have a luxury tax system and not a salary cap system. I mean, this
Jerry will never let that happen.
I know, but this is case in point, and this is also kind of why I think that there's, don't quote me, but I think that there's going to be another lockout. There's going to be a lot of issues in this next CBA, but I'm
hoping it's going to be a strike, not a lockout, because the owners need to get over themselves.
Right. But it kind of leading back into our trade deadline stuff. The contract situations, the way that contracts are structured nowadays really fall into how trades are made. And right now we're not seeing a lot of movement. I mean, we saw Rick Nash go to Boston. Ryan Spooner was in that deal. And I mean, Boston, it looked like they overpaid to me. What do you guys think about the Rick Nash trade?
Oh, I think if you're New York, you're laughing. I mean, just Spooner alone was on pace for a better season than Rick Nash is on pace for. I know that was one of the things that was tweeted out ad nauseum as soon as that trade broke. But if you're the Rangers, I mean, if you're starting your rebuild, man, that's not a bad way to get it started.
Right. And I mean, they take Bolesky off the Bruins' hands, which I think kind of plays into that, because that Bolesky deal was really bad. And they send 2 draft picks over to New York.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but it was, shoot, Spooner alone was just such a nice snag.
Yeah, he's 26. Definitely, he's going to be starting the prime arc of his career. So, like I said before, it was a good haul. Really good haul. Let's take a look at the trade Centra.
By the way, for those of you who are interested in trade deadline coverage tomorrow, besides the fact that I think Puck Guy is going to be doing some kind of trade thing on Tealtown Live, I know that ESPN 3, or whatever you want to call it, whatever the ESPN app is, they are going to be streaming TSN's feed from like 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow for the trade deadline. So if you're watching on NHL Network, you're going to get the crappy Sportsnet feed. But if you get on ESPN3.com or something like that, or the ESPN app, you can watch TSN's feed of Trade Center. So
the Nashville Predators, Oilers, and Blue Jackets complete that 3-way trade, which is kind of interesting to see. Don't really see a lot of 3-way trades, but in the first,
they made a comeback this year. It feels like,
yeah,
when you saw the Duchesne deal, and then and then the other deal that just happened. I mean, it seems like the three-way trade, I guess with the salary cap being what it is, I feel like that's allowed for a long time as like a big detriment to the three-way trade. But now I think you're seeing, because teams have to get fancy with cap, that they're starting to make a comeback.
Yeah. So the Nashville Predators acquire Mark Letestu for Pontus Aberg from the Oilers. And then the Blue Jackets get Letestu for a fourth-round pick from the Predators. So the Predators get a fourth-round pick out of the deal. The Blue Jackets get Mark Letestu, and Oilers get Pontus Aberg. Kind of another interesting trade was Toronto trades with kind of arch rival Montreal, Thomas Plekanec and Kyle Baum for Kirby Reichel, Rene Villiers, and
Renat Viliev.
And the trade for Rick Nash was a first-round pick, Ryan Spooner, Matt Bolesky, Ryan Lindgren, and a seventh-round 2019 pick. That's really, I mean, Ryan Lindgren is a decent defensive kind of guy, defensive kind of prospect. Ryan Spooner, I think it really is the gem in that trade. It's good to see kind of start to rebuild off right. Yesterday, the Oilers acquired Brandon Davidson from the Islanders acquired Brandon Davidson from the Oilers. The third round. And
go ahead. Sorry, I'll let you finish. I was going to say, Rob asked a really good question. He's like, do you see a lot of waiver claims after the deadline? Actually, the reason why the waiver wire is so busy today is because after tomorrow, you can't change a roster via waivers or anything. If you claim a guy on waivers, he's not eligible to play in the playoffs for your team.
Right. So if teams are expecting to bring on players, just as a precaution, they put guys on waivers in advance.
That's why the waiver wire is insane today.
Yeah.
The other thing too, that's kind of a little bit of interesting wrinkle is it's a trade deadline for players to be available for playoff rosters. It's not a absolute trade deadline like this stop. So you can still sign players. I mean, we see a lot of free agent college signings after this period that are still allowed to play in the playoffs and things like that. So it's not complete end of business. And I just kind of want to throw that out.
Right. That's a good call, because I think last year was like the first time in like 15-ish years that we did see a trade after the trade deadline, but it was between two teams that weren't involved in the playoffs. That can happen. I don't remember who it was, but
I think it was the Coyotes and somebody else.
Something like that. It's a good call, though, Landy.
And then quickly, we want to go over that last three-way trade that happened on the 23rd. It was with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Senators, and the Golden Knights. Pittsburgh ends up getting their center. They get Derek Brassard, and boy, oh boy, they're looking like the three-peat they want to try. They're going to go for it. So it's Derek Brassard, Vincent Dunn, and a third-round pick goes to the Penguins. The Senators get Ian Cole, Philip Gustafsson, first-round 2018, third-round 2019. The Golden Knights get Ryan Reeves and a fourth-round pick, and the Pittsburgh Penguins gets Tobias Lindberg. So
Lindberg's bounced around a lot.
Yeah.
I do like the Gustafsson pickup for the Sens, though.
Yeah. I like pickup for the Sens a lot more than what the Duchesne one.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to protect Crosby, though. No one's answering me this question. That Ryan Reeves was brought in, and they were very public that it was because they didn't like how Crosby got pushed around too much in their last two playoff ones where they won the Stanley Cup. And now before the playoffs, he's gone. Who is going to protect Sidney Crosby? Will somebody
look at that asset? Look at that asset management. I mean, they traded a first-round pick and Oscar Sundqvist for Ryan Reeves, and then they moved Ryan Reeves with 40% of Brassard's salary cap hit for like a third or fourth round pick? What did you say, Landy?
It was Pittsburgh getting Lindbergh for a fourth round and Ryan Reeves for Vegas. So it's interesting because Vegas really is the one that helps facilitate this trade, helps with the cap. They're able to basically move Brassard out for Ryan Reeves. That's how they're able to work the cap magic around. And are going to get a fourth round pick for their troubles. So they're trying to collect the treasure trove of those picks. Their farm system's going to be stocked quite well.
Yeah.
And Ottawa trying to recoup from the losses of the Matt Duchene trade, taking a first and a third, which is good for them. I mean, they're talk about asset management and not doing a good job. Pierre Dorian, man, I don't know how the guy keeps his job. I know that he
just got extended.
He just got extended, but I don't know how. I mean, Eugene Melnick is a freaking fool, but whatever. Now, another interesting kind of trade between rivals. The Devils and the Rangers hook up for a trade on the 22nd for Michael Grabner for Igor Rykov and a second-round pick in 2018.
I think another thing, sorry, just to hit on something, just going back on the Brassard thing. Also, Vegas benefits because it was, they stated they didn't want but Brassard to end up in the division or conference.
Oh.
So that helps.
Oh, like a rival team.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't want him either because the Jets were really, really hard on Brassard.
Yeah, I heard something about the Jets. I was absent that day from trade talk, but did you hear any rumors about what the Jets may have offered for Brassard?
I have no idea. I just know the Jets have been in on a lot of players, which is, nice to see Kevin Cheveldayoff actually wanting to make some trades. But getting rid of Evander Kane.
So you mentioned Grabner?
Yeah, Grabner to the Devils for Igor Rykov and a second-round pick. That's the first trade between Devils and Rangers ever?
I think so.
Rangers are not shy about the rebuild, so kind of interesting, but they're starting to get a little bit of a treasure trove of picks. So it's good to see the Rangers really rebuilding and really taking on that bull by the horns and getting some really good returns.
Yeah. But hats off to the Devils too. I mean, they're in a position to make the playoffs. Like the fact that they're going for it is, I'm surprised.
Yeah, because you could have just finished the season playing with house money, and if you get in, you get in. But to go for it, good on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still playing with house money still. Like, I mean, it's not like you gave up a significant for Grabner. I think, it was you gave up something, but nothing too significant, I don't think. So you still got a bunch of players still up and coming. So.
Right.
Yeah, and they got Will Butcher for free.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Mike McLeod coming up.
Yeah, and the Panthers on the 22nd, the Panthers get Frank Vetrano from Boston for a third-round pick.
Oh, wow, I didn't hear about that one.
On the 22nd, so Frankie, right? I thought he goes by Frankie, right? Frankie Vetrano?
Frank. Yeah.
So, I mean, we got a little bit of movement here, but it's not – these are just kind of like little fringe pieces. We're not seeing the big pieces go in this trade deadline, and quite honestly, I think that's kind of the sign of what this trade deadline is going to be like.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see a Carlson moving.
But you will be glued to my computer till friggin' 3:00 tomorrow anyway.
Yeah.
I'll be there the whole time.
Also with the really what it is, it's a clear day deadline more than a trade deadline. We had 3 players from the Olympics signed today. Chris Kelly signed with the Ducks for the rest of the season. Brian Giunta signed with the Bruins for the rest of the season, and Cody Golovev signed with the Flames. And I think Mike Fisher is going to officially sign tomorrow with the Preds.
I thought it was actually went final tonight. It was $1 million.
Oh, did it go tonight? Okay.
Yeah,
I believe it's
prorated.
I thought they said it was officially tomorrow, but regardless, it's done.
I think they'll officially announce it tomorrow.
I still thought it would have been funny if they had kind of forgot, like they just assumed they'd already done it already, and then oh crap!
Yeah.
Like when Dale Tallon forgot to send out his qualifying offers. Someone did it. It's all good.
So kind of putting a bow on the trade deadline talk. I mean, Evander Kane is yet to fall. We've got Eric Carlson, and who's the other senator? Hoffman on the chopping block. Montreal, you have Pacioretty, who's also been rumored to be moving out. The Rangers still have a few assets left, and the McDonough asset was still talked about. I think Tampa Bay was kind of leaning more towards McDonough versus Carlson because of the ask from Pierre Dorian. Detroit has Tatar, right? I think Tatar's still on the block.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So I mean, there's that's the problem. I think is you listing off all these sellers. I just don't know if there's enough buyers.
Yeah,
right. And I mean,
Mike Green too. Yeah,
Mike Green, exactly. That's a really good, interesting pick around there. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen with Chicago. Chicago could do some things. They have some serious issues in and around construction. Edmonton, of course. I mean, Chiarelli has come out and said that he wants to remodel, not remake the team. But man, Edmonton's so behind on the 8 ball with the way that they constructed their team. I don't know if it's too far gone. I don't think it ever can be too far gone with Connor McDavid on your team. But man, he really just wasted that entry level deal that he had. What do you guys think?
It's the D. I mean, I don't think, I've always been kind of a big fan of Oscar Klefbom. He's had an absolute season to forget between his play and injuries. And that's, I think the problems start there. I guess on the plus side for them, although it's going to cause more cap problems, is I thought Darnell Nurse has had a really good season, and he's probably going to get significantly paid now to insult to injury.
Yeah. Arizona also has some assets they could deal. Vancouver has a few assets. Somebody was talking about not Yannick Hansen. We got him. Was talking about come on, guys, help me out here. Minnesota Wild.
What's up?
The
Charlie Coyle?
No. Vancouver. He was a Minnesota Wild. He's quartered around.
Wait, I missed the question. I'm answering Vince in the chat.
No, Thomas Vanek.
Oh.
So, so like I said before, I see the Sharks either standing pat or trying to make some hockey moves, but not a lot of hockey moves are made at this time of the year. And they're just in limbo, guys. They're just in limbo. And there's no quick fix for this. We've talked about it over and over again. There is no quick fix.
No. Like I don't feel like you. And look at, I mean, the big elephant in the room still is they expect Joe Thornton to be back by the playoff start, if they should so be in the playoffs. But what percentage of Joe Thornton is that going to be?
Right. Yeah. Which jumbo are you going to get back? And like I said tonight, man, they look like 1 and 2 center short. I mean, 1 or 2 C short. And mind you, Joe Thornton, it would be better than pretty much any rental you could get right now. Even at 75% of Joe Thornton is still better than what's on the marketplace right now. But even with Joe Thornton, I mean, this team still looks.
But that's it, though. Do you make a big deal? Do you sell assets and not get Joe Thornton back when you expect him to? Like, that's a disaster in itself. No, like that's why I think that Wilson's in maybe a tougher spot than he's ever been. Because unless you're making a move that like an Erik Karlsson, where obviously you're signing him for like he's got years left on his deal. If you're not bringing a guy with years left, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. And really, it's like, okay, if you're expecting Joe Thornton to come back at all this year, it behooves you not to sell off assets. So it kind of keeps you in limbo there. If he's basically said, look, like, I'm going to be like a shell of myself when I come back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's really start time to look at moving Joe Pavelski. I mean, he just does not look. I think you try and sell high on him at this point, and you try and pretty much you get rid of Hansen, you get rid of. I mean, it's clear that DeBoer has no trust in Heed, so you try and get something for him.
Yeah, I think the Sharks move Heed before tomorrow.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's going to be interesting though, because they've got a lot of pieces that I think they would like to sell. I mean, they asked Joel Ward for his trade list, his no trade list.
Paul Martin, I would assume. People are looking.
I mean, I think there's a lot of guys they'd like to move. I just don't know that they get anything for them.
They would have to retain 50% of salary cap for both of those guys.
Even
Which
Joe
isn't-
Ward, who's on the end of his career, end of his contract. I mean, prorated, there can't be very much left there against the cap.
No, but I mean that's what it'll take, and even then, you're gonna have to convince someone.
Right.
I think if Joel Ward wasn't injured, I think someone would take a look, because you always see these old grizzled playoff.
I do agree. Yeah, but you know what though? At the same time, I don't think he's injured anymore, because if he's injured, he can't be traded. He wouldn't clear physical. So the fact
the
that
team would have to sign off on it. Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is look at all the players they're holding. So I don't think that they can bring anybody up yet without having to expose somebody to waivers. No.
I mean, you can bring Regan back up, I guess. I don't know. You still got Regan and Sorensen you can kind of pull back up and down like yo-yos they've been.
Yeah. I don't know, guys, but
If the season goes super downhill, you could give Chartier a look too.
yeah, or
Not that I'm advocating for that. I'm just throwing it out there.
ball.
I would just send Sorensen, O'Regan down, keep Chartier and Foster's there, even though the Barracudas stink. At least it'd be, a development standpoint versus playing 5 minutes a night on the Sharks.
Yeah, and Gen X bring up a good point. He can be traded if the team agrees to a physical assessment. So if they say, yes, we know he's injured, but we expect this timeline, they can agree to trade him.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to start wrapping it up here. You guys have any last little tidbits that you want to put on before we end it?
We haven't done reach around. In Edmonton, you had one freaking job.
All right. Edmonton had
one job. Edmonton, one job.
One job, and I guess we'll go to the reach around. It's your nightly cap of the games, and I mean, Edmonton does us a solid by winning in the shootout, but that's about it.
You could have won in regulation, Edmonton. You could have won in regulation. You had the
5
lead.
seconds. You had 5 seconds. Yep. Here we go. Canucks. The Canucks and Coyotes went final. Canucks win 3-1. Predators beat the Blues. The Blues, like I've said before, have really kind of gone into free fall right now. They beat them 4-0. La Sabras beat the Bruins 4-1. Red Wings beat Rangers 3-2 in overtime. Like we've said before, Oilers beat the Ducks in a shootout. Thanks for nothing, Oilers.
Yeah.
You guys. And the Sharks lose in a final in overtime, 3-2 against the Wild. Sharks fall again to the Wild in overtime. At least it wasn't Nino Niederreiter is all I have to say about that.
Damn it,
Or
that's
Charlie
right.
Coyle,
That
because
was one of the other times I was on this season.
Yeah, exactly. Nino Niederreiter. God, that kid.
Or Charlie Coyle, because Twitter would have been insufferable if Charlie Coyle scored the winner.
Oh my God. The reason why, and we'll get into this, but the reason why Charlie Coyle was expendable, you guys know why?
Expendable from the Sharks or from Minnesota?
Oh, from the Sharks.
He
was having academic issues at
was he really?
Yeah, in the NCAA. And
yeah.
He was supposedly having some behavioral stuff going on too. Just from some of the Twitter rumors and stuff, and the Sharks and Doug Wilson on character guys, it wouldn't have surprised me if that's why he was so expendable at that draft. But I digress. Asset management, Doug Wilson, not looking so great. Anyhow, you guys, where can we catch you? Where can we catch you, Ian? What are you doing these days? What are you? Yeah, I know you're doing Teal. Oh.
Whoa, he bounced out.
Okay, here we go.
There he is. Okay.
Back.
Doing these days, and where can we find you?
Who, me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you.
Oh, I am at Ian Blogs Hockey on Twitter. You can find me doing another podcast called Teal Tinted Glasses. You can also find my work on Teal Town USA. Look for it. I'm sure I'm going to write something tomorrow when the dust settles, and it'll probably be awesome. So you should read it.
Yep. Kevin?
I'm at Kevin Lacey 22 on Twitter, cleaning up a couple things I said earlier. I forgot Jim O'Brien also signed from the Olympics to Ottawa. Oh. And I think that, Ian, are we
With
doing
one job, Germany?
What's up?
With one job, Germany. One job.
Are we doing a Teal Tinted Glasses trade deadline special tomorrow night, Ian?
Certainly are. Yep.
All right, so check us out
7
there. Yeah.
And
I hope that the Sharks, the only thing they bring in tomorrow is Paul Postma. If you haven't heard of Paul Postma, that's okay.
that's okay.
Because he'll only be here till the season ends. But yeah.
So I mean, you're just really literally the only reason why you want that trade is so you can say we have a trade to announce. That's literally his only value to the Sharks.
I thought you were gonna say that's my only value to the show.
Wow.
Hey, I might have the sarcastic sarcastic quip every now and then, but I'm not Ian.
Okay, fair.
Love you, Ian. But anyhow, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for dealing with the mic issues and the technology issues.
Yeah, what's going on tonight?
And I just think it was an off night for everybody.
Thanks for putting me in, coach.
Yeah, we tagged you in, tag team style. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe somewhere down there. There's a red subscribe button. That subscribe button really does help us out. It kind of gets us a little bit more recognition on YouTube. The more recognition, that we get, the more it comes up in the recommended section for people when they look for hockey things. And gets, maybe we can get us some of that YouTube money that everybody is talking about these days. These youngins talk about. And also, if you haven't already, I'm going to put the screen share up. Catch us on tealtownusa.com. We've got a lot of great writers. Kevin, Ian, Felix, just to name a few of them that are got some really good stuff. And you can also catch the show in audio format on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and of course the video replay here on YouTube. Thank you everybody for chiming in, stopping by, and we will see you after the next game.